Law-Abiding Citizen. It's one of the most beloved films in this genre, and it's definitely my favorite Gerard Butler film. I'm sure you'll love it too. In the next few minutes, I'll tell you everything you didn't know about this film. It'll be interesting and informative. This is the Feinen channel. Let's go. The film was shot in Philadelphia and the surrounding area, including the city's current administration building and the former Holmesburg prison. The prison closed in 1998 and has since mainly been used as a warehouse. The former dining hall has been converted into a modern police station complete with rows of tables and other furnishings. The film premiered in Gerard Butler's homeland of Scotland at the Cineworld Multiplex in Glasgow, which is considered to be both the tallest and one of the busiest cinemas in the world. Frank Darabont was originally set to direct the film, and Catherine Zeta-Jones was supposed to play one of the roles in one of the early stages of production. With Darabont at the helm, you have to admit that this prison story could have been even more interesting, given that he directed such masterpieces as The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. Darabont even worked on rewriting Kurt Wimmer's script, but he left the project due to creative differences. Unfortunately, after Gary Gray took over as director, the script was partially revised by others for the new director. Originally, it was planned that Jamie Foxx would play Shelton and Gerard Butler would play Rice. This had even been officially announced. However, there are different accounts of how Foxx ended up playing Rice, while Butler played Shelton. According to one account, Foxx himself called the producers and asked if Butler would like to play Clyde because he preferred the character of Nick. When the producer suggested Butler switch roles, he allegedly said, "Jamie as Nick and me as Clyde would be cool." However, Butler also claimed in an interview that he had suggested swapping roles himself, as he was also a producer on the film. He initially regretted that the idea had been implemented by other producers, but acknowledged that ultimately it worked out for the good of the project.
Come on, Clyde. Okay.
The shots featuring a rattling food cart wheel and the hidden weapons meant for Clyde Shelton turned out to be a tribute to the 1996 film The Rock, where terrorists used a similar cart to smuggle weapons through the corridors of Alcatraz prison. In one scene, Gerard Butler's character says, "It's not what you know, it's what you can prove in court." This is the same phrase that Denzel Washington's character said in the movie Training Day, only without the words "in court." At Clyde's house, Detective Dunnigan asks Nick Rice if Clyde is a lawyer. Dunnigan hands him a volume of the United States Code. This volume is devoted to bankruptcy, seemingly irrelevant to Clyde's plan, but perhaps he had the entire collection and simply chose one at random.
Is this guy a lawyer?
No.
Director Felix Airy Gray chose Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse as the place from which to deliver Clyde's lunch, having frequently dined there himself during the production of the film. This restaurant also became the venue for the after-party following the film's premiere at the Philadelphia Film Festival. According to the prices on Del Frisco's official website at the time, a medium-rare porterhouse steak would have cost around $67.20, macaroni and cheese would have cost $21.75, and asparagus would have cost $15, bringing the total to $103.95. Nick instructs the waiter to add a 30% tip, equating to $32.05 and bringing the grand total to $136.
You ever been to Del Frisco's? They cater.
In the scene where Jamie Foxx's character takes the oath of office as district attorney, the man holding the Bible is Michael Nutter. He was actually the mayor of Philadelphia at the time the film was shot. The film's director, Gary Gray, also makes a cameo appearance in the film. He plays a police detective who hands Detective Garza a bag of evidence. In a twist of fate, the actor Gerard Butler had initially pursued a career in law before entering the world of acting. At the beginning of the film, Nick Rice mentions that he attended night school at Fordham University. Interestingly, Regina Hall, the actress who played Kelly Rice, also studied at the same university.
75 degrees, 10 minutes, 22 seconds west. And you better hurry, Nick.
The coordinates that Clyde provides at the location of Bill Reynolds actually point to a hotel in Philadelphia, where the law-abiding citizen film crew and actors staying while filming the movie. In the scene where Clyde shares a meal with his cellmate, the song Eminence Front by The Who plays on his iPod. The song is about people who pretend to be something they're not. At that very moment, Clyde is doing just that, pretending that he can't escape while acting friendly towards his cellmate. After the torture and murder scene, Darby is shown as Clyde working on the wings. In Greek mythology, Daedalus creates wings out of wax so that he and his son Icarus can escape. Icarus, blinded by pride, flies too high. The wax melts in the sun, and he perishes. This refers to Clyde's revenge, which spirals out of control and leads to his own demise at the hands of the device he himself created.
Clyde, it's a decision you have to live with for the rest of your life, which I figure by now is about 25 more seconds.
The security guards at City Hall greet Clyde with the word nomos, which corresponds to the inscription on his work overalls. In Greek, nomos means law and is associated with the concept of justice. In sociology, nomos is a set of unspoken rules that people take for granted in everyday life. All these meanings are directly related to Clyde's actions and motivation. In Pennsylvania, where the events of the film take place, third-degree murder, also referred to as involuntary manslaughter, is distinct from first and second-degree murder, since it is generally considered accidental and unrelated to the commission of another crime. Such a verdict in this case would be incorrect. In an interview, Gerard Butler said that the scene in which he had lunch with his cellmate and a steak bone was deemed so bloody and violent by the MPA that it earned the original version of the film an NC-17 adults-only rating. However, after a revised version with much less blood was submitted, the film was immediately given an R rating, even though the scene was still very violent. NC-17 rated films are rarely released in wide distribution. They are often shunned by movie theaters, television networks, and advertisers. Therefore, studios try to get at least an R rating, even if it means cutting important scenes from the plot. This film is noteworthy for several reasons. Not only does it feature Gerard Butler portraying a morally complex antagonist, it also has a much darker tone than his usual projects. The film was met with controversy, both in terms of its plot and its reviews. Surprisingly, the film has an audience approval rating of 75% on the same Rotten Tomatoes website, but only 26% from critics. Perhaps the reason for this discrepancy is the ending involving the law-abiding citizen. In the finale, prosecutor Nick Rice discovers that Clyde is planning to target City Hall with an explosive device. To prevent this catastrophe, Rice places an explosive device in Clyde's cell and secures him inside. Understanding his fate, Clyde gazes at his daughter's bracelet before the device detonates. This conclusion demonstrates how Clyde, initially a victim of tragedy, transformed into someone whose actions could no longer be morally defended. Meanwhile, Nick compromises his own ethical principles by taking decisive action against Clyde, raising questions about the boundaries of justice and personal righteousness. By the end, Nick states that he no longer makes deals with those who take lives, including Clyde, but ultimately he crosses a moral boundary himself. When Nick places an explosive device in Clyde's cell, he effectively eliminates him. Nick has now crossed the line and become the same type of person he was trying to stop. Critics largely gave the film negative reviews, particularly regarding the ending, but audiences appreciated the tense plot and the actors' performances. Interestingly, the film originally had an alternative version of the finale. While the ending was that rare part which both critics and viewers found weak, an alternative existed that might have satisfied everyone. The main theme of the film is the failure of the justice system and how it broke a good person, transforming him into someone who began committing terrible acts. Although he was initially a victim, the consequences he faced turned out to be harsher than those for the actual perpetrators, which ultimately conveyed a rather questionable message.
Your Honor, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm just a regular guy.
Apparently, the law-abiding citizen script went through several versions before the director settled on the final version we saw. There were rumors that Jamie Foxx insisted on a new ending, where his character eliminates Clyde to save people in City Hall. This isn't true, but there was indeed another version when Nick Rice confronted Clyde in hand-to-hand combats. In that version, Nick gets arrested for his actions, and he makes a deal with the district attorney. Thus, he himself becomes the new Clyde. This deprives Nick of a happy ending and makes him the new perpetrator. However, this version was ultimately replaced with a more heroic conclusion. With a production budget of $50 million, Law-Abiding Citizen ultimately earned $126 million in global box office revenue. In other words, even if it had achieved success, that success would have been moderate at best. According to standard Hollywood calculations, the film would most likely have reached the break-even point at approximately $132 million in earnings. However, these figures can fluctuate, and it's quite possible that Law-Abiding Citizen did achieve profitability when considering home video sales across various formats over the past decade and a half. This doesn't account for the numerous times it has been streamed on digital platforms in recent years. Although Law Abiding Citizen may not have been a major commercial success in 2009, it certainly discovered its audience in subsequent years. Incidentally, a follow-up to this action thriller has received approval for development. According to reports from Deadline, Law Abiding Citizen 2 is officially moving forward in development. Producers Lucas Foster and Alan Siegel want to return alongside original star Gerard Butler and screenwriter Kurt Wimmer as producers. Currently, no information about the plot or cast has been provided, and the project was even briefly put on hold. But the entire team is very eager to release this continuation, so audiences can definitely expect a sequel. This news came just a few months after the film experienced a surge of renewed popularity on Netflix in 2022. The streaming service temporarily added this title to their catalog, and it quickly rose to a high position, third place in their weekly charts. Unfortunately, the film is no longer available on Netflix currently. The film was competing even with new original Netflix productions at that time. Imagine that. Believe me, this is very challenging. One could say it's nearly impossible to achieve, given that Gerard Butler's producer involvement in Law Abiding Citizen 2 has already been announced. It's unlikely that he will play the lead role in the project. Well, this makes sense even from a story perspective. If that were the case, it would probably have been announced at the same time. This means they are currently looking for a new star around whom the project will be built. It will be interesting to see whether they settle on an established action hero type, as Butler was at that time, or give a younger star with a different persona a chance to showcase their acting abilities in this genre. Time will tell. Butler himself recently responded to questions about the sequel. Yes, from time to time we talk about this project needing to be revived as a prequel. No, as a sequel. I don't know. I really don't know what's happening. These questions are difficult to answer right now, but I'm very proud of this film. It's really good. When people mention my favorite films, they obviously name 300 and Law Abiding Citizen, and it would be cool to return to this somehow. I mean, I don't think I would look as good right now later on, but I would participate behind the scenes with great pleasure. One of the producers, Lucas Foster, even stated that the studios are eagerly anticipating reconnecting with these compelling characters, and said that the concept of this story seems even more relevant today than when the original film was released. The director declared, "We're going to blow your minds again." Although the plot hasn't been revealed, the film team has already indicated that the key creative figures behind the sequel are considering the film as an opportunity to create an entire franchise. Which fact about the film Law Abiding Citizen surprised you the most in this video? And which other film in this series should we cover in the near future? I'm waiting for your comments under this video right now. This is the Fade In channel. See you soon.